And while I'm on the subject, let me say something about Harry Potter. Warlocks are enemies of God. And I don't care what kind of hero they are. They're an enemy of God. And had it been in the Old Testament, Harry Potter would have been put to death.
Amen.
The Harry Potter series has been hailed as a classic work of fiction that instills morality in its young readers, and also condemned as a gateway to hell. The author J.K. Rowling has been praised as a genius and condemned as a secret witch. And in religious circles, the Harry Potter series has spawned numerous books and articles. This series of talks has a different purpose. We are going to look at the Harry Potter series through the eyes of the Catholic faith. And our focus is not on what the series itself is trying to teach us, but on how we should reflect on what it is we're reading, using both our faith and our reason. Before we can actually do that, though, I think we need to address the magical elephant in the room. Is Harry committing a grave sin, according to church teaching, every time he or anyone else in the series practices magic? My answer is no, but it's going to take a little work to see why exactly that is the case. First, we've got to start with what the church actually teaches about magic. How about Scripture? In the first half of the Bible, the Old Testament, God makes his opinion about magic quite clear, and this is what he tells the Hebrew people. Let there not be found among you anyone who immolates his son or daughter in the fire, nor a fortune-teller, soothsayer, charmer, diviner, or caster of spells, nor anyone who consults ghosts and spirits, or seeks oracles from the dead. Anyone who does such things is an abomination to the Lord. That was the Old Testament. The New Testament is going to be totally different, right?
No, definitely not.
When a bunch of people in the town of Ephesus who had been practicing magic are converted by St. Paul to the faith, they decide to burn their magical books that were worth about 50,000 silver pieces. And you thought Harry Potter was rich. The New Testament was written a long time ago. I mean, the church must have loosened up a bit in the meantime, right?
Smart boy. They told me you were intelligent.
This is the Catechism of the Catholic Church. If you've never heard of it before, it's a basic summary of what the church teaches. It was published under the authority of John Paul II in 1997 with input from all the bishops of the world. And it has 2 full paragraphs on magic that provide a much nicer summary of the church's teaching than I could possibly give, so I'm just going to read them. All forms of divination are to be rejected. Recourse to Satan or demons, conjuring up the dead, or other practices falsely supposed to unveil the future. Consulting horoscopes, astrology, palm reading, interpretation of omens and lots, the phenomena of clairvoyance, and recourse to mediums all conceal a desire for power over time, history, and, in the last analysis, other human beings, as well as a wish to conciliate hidden powers. They contradict the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. And that's just a half of it. All practices of magic or sorcery by which one attempts to tame occult powers so as to place them at one's service and have a supernatural power over others, even if this were for the sake of restoring their health, are gravely contrary to the virtue of religion. These practices are even more to be condemned when accompanied by the intention of harming someone, or when they have recourse to the intervention of demons. Wearing charms is also reprehensible. Spiritism often implies divination or magical practices. The Church, for her part, warns the faithful against it. Well, there we have it. Those paragraphs seem to leave about as much room for magic as the Old Testament, which is to say none at all. Looks like Harry's going to be in pretty big trouble on Judgment Day, right?
Harry, no way.
Not necessarily. When we pull apart what the Catechism actually says, we can see 3 factors that make magic evil. First, there's demonic involvement. Secondly, a desire for power. And thirdly, the powers that are sought are occult or hidden or supernatural. The first problem is an obvious one. In life, we can choose to be friends with God or friends with his enemies, but not both at the same time. The second has to do with motivation. It is a desire to be something we're not and to control others. It's pride, pure and simple. The third factor has to do with the fact that magic in our world is something that we don't naturally have. This desire for different types of power is motivated by pride that I just mentioned, but there's another important factor here. To try and get these supernatural powers is itself, no matter what our motivation, a rebellion against the order established by God, the creator of the universe and the King of Kings. Acquiring or attempting to acquire magical abilities is a refusal to accept our limitations, a refusal to trust in God's love, and a refusal to be grateful for all the gifts that He has given us. Now, to understand how magic in Harry's world relates to the Church's teaching on magic in our world, I want to list 6 important factors about magic in Harry's world. First, wizards are born, not made. Harry does magic even before he knows what magic is. When Harry is at the zoo with this jerk of a cousin Dudley, he makes the glass disappear and reappear without casting any spells or saying any magic words, just by sheer willpower. Second, wizards in Harry's world can do magic without wands or magic words or anything that needs to be learned at school. All they need is themselves. Harry certainly didn't need any of those things to blow up his Aunt Marge after she started talking smack about his parents. Harry's magic is simply a part of who and what he is. Wizard in Harry's world is not a job or a title given for magical accomplishments. It describes something that is a part of a person's very being. The third important thing to remember is that wizards cannot be made in Harry's world. Groundskeeper Filch is a squib, born into a magical family, but without magic himself, and he orders a quick spell course to try and help him learn magic. But at the end of Book 7, he has no more magical power than he did at the beginning of Book 1. Fourth, Harry's inborn magical powers allow him to act in his world in kind of the same way that angels act in ours. An angel is an incorporeal substance of a rational nature. In English, this means that they don't have a body, but they have an intellect and a will, and so they can know things and choose things. If I want to move that altar behind me from one place to another, I can't just choose to have it move. I need to actually go over there and pick it up and move it. But not for Harry and not for angels. They can make things happen simply by willing them. The fifth factor to remember is that the type of magic we have in our world doesn't even exist in Harry's world. People in our world can actually use occult powers, demonic powers, to do evil. These demons are actually fallen angels. They're the ones who are the stars of all those exorcism movies we've seen. But in Harry's world, there are no angels to work with, good or bad, so there's actually no danger of working with demons. The sixth and final factor is that magic in Harry's world works according to laws that anyone can know. And so the way classes are structured at Hogwarts tells us that what's being studied are the laws that govern magic. Magic operates in Harry's world the way gravity does in ours. Now, there are interesting and hard to predict magical results, but for a genius like Dumbledore, they are something understandable because there are magical laws of the universe in Harry's world. One obvious conclusion that we can get from all of this is that Harry's world is not our world. If they were the same, then magic would operate the same in both, but they obviously do not. Both might have a city named London, and both might celebrate Christmas, but there are two different worlds here. So now we're going to compare the magic in Harry's world to that in our own in order to get a better understanding of the morality of it. The first problem that I mentioned was demonic influence. Now that doesn't seem to be a problem because in Harry's world there are no angels, good or bad, to work with. So it's not something we have to worry about. The second problem I mentioned was the lust for power, which is driven by pride. Now, this pride can be a problem, certainly was for Lord Voldemort, and it drove him to seek magical power. But pride is evil even if it doesn't lead us to magic. Pride can lead people to seek political power, but that doesn't mean political power is evil in itself. Power is not the problem. A prideful grasping for power is. The third problem with magic in our world is that it's a hunting after supernatural powers, powers that are not rightfully ours. But this obviously isn't an issue for Harry because all of his powers are natural to him. They're a part of his constitution, of his very person. So what may look supernatural to us is for Harry something very natural.
You're a wizard, Harry.
And that changes things.
I'm a what?
A wizard. And a thumping good one, I'd wager.
That changes the very essence of what he is doing. The word magic is used to describe people in our world standing around cauldrons or dancing naked in the moonlight or calling on demons. trying their best to become something they were not made to be, and to have power they were not meant to have. And this is very different from simply increasing an ability that is built into us. Harry's magic is natural for him because he is born with this ability, and he's a magical person even if he doesn't want to be. For us to do what he does with his wand would be supernatural, or better yet, unnatural. And this is why magic for us in our world always contradicts the honor, respect, and loving fear that we owe to God alone. Magic is a refusal to perfect the powers and the talents that we do have, and substitutes in their place a quest for abilities that God did not see fit to give us. Now, the Catechism mentioned that sometimes people seek out magic in order to cure illnesses. Now, curing the sick is a very noble work. Jesus certainly did lots of it. But we need to see magic for what it is: a failure to use proper medicine, a rejection of prayer, and a refusal to bear the cross that God gives us or to walk with those who are suffering. The most precious gift we have by far is the ability to become sons and daughters of God in Christ Jesus. By His incarnation, death, resurrection from the dead, we can be filled with the very life of God, now and in eternity. St. Irenaeus of Lyon said, "God became man, that men might become God." Compared to that, the power to fly, transform into animals, or even heal the sick is small stuff. And it should be no surprise that God gets angry when we trade His gifts for others. Jesus said, "If you love me, you'll keep my commandments." Now, to do that, we need to know what Christ asks of us through the church, and also how to apply this teaching to life and literature and everything that we encounter. Please visit preachingfriars.org to see all my videos. Thank you for watching, and remember to read lots, pray more, and keep the faith.